Hello, my name is Ólöf Ásta Farestveit and I'm from Iceland. I hope what he said just now is right because I don't understand Estonia. But I'm really happy to be here with you today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Children's House, which we normally call Barnahús in Iceland. And I will tell you about the mission, and then we will go a little bit into some sexual behavior, some young children's show. And Þorbjörg will then take over and tell you more. This model is actually from USA, and it's called Child Advocacy Center. They have been working since '85. And we started in 1st of November 1998, so we have just reached 16 years. So we just work with children who have been abused sexually. So this picture shows what happened in Iceland when children disclose about sexual abuse. And this photo shows that they had to tell many people what happened to them. First of all, they told someone grown up, then maybe they told the Child Protection Service, then they spoke to the police, and then they had to go to the doctor for medical care, and then someone who was having the treatment. Also, so they had maybe 5, 6, and up to 15 disclosures about sexual abuse. And that's not good for children. If we think about a 4-year-old, you can imagine how they can tell the same story over and over again. So, the mission of Barnahús, this is the Child Advocacy Center, it's the Icelandic name which we use normally. The mission is to facilitate collaboration and coordination of Child Protection Service, police, prosecution, and the medical profession in the investigation of child sexual abuse. And it's also, this mission is to provide a child-friendly setting for joint investigative interviews and medical examination, and to ensure professional implementation of investigative interviews. The mission is also to ensure that the child victim and his or her family receive appropriate support, treatment, and assessment. And this is also to establish professional work practices and guidelines by interdisciplinary cooperation, and to enhance specialized knowledge on child sexual abuse and to mediate that knowledge as appropriate to professionals and public alike, and also not to harm the child. And that's maybe the most important part. So our house is made for children. It's done that the different professions meet the child in a child-friendly settings, and the child just have to tell about or disclose about sexual abuse just once. So how is the referrals to Barnahús in Iceland? In Iceland we have the Icelandic law that the Child Protection Service is in the centrum. Everything has to go through this Child Protection Service. You can't speak with children under age of 18 without Child Protection Service. So if a case goes direct to the police have to immediately involve Child Protection Service. Most cases, because everyone has to tell Child Protection Service if something is going on in children's home or if they are not feeling good. So the Icelandic people mostly know that we have to report it to the Child Protection Service. And if the Child Protection Service knows that there is something going on, or child has given a disclosure about sexual abuse and someone who is a perpetrator over the age of 15, they refer that or report it to the police. we had to change our law before Barnahus, or after Barnahus, because in Iceland, when you report it to the police and the police is investigating a case, they will involve the court even though we are still pre-investigating the case. So, when the police got a case, they ask the witnesses or some short debriefing from witnesses and immediately involve the court. And the courtroom is the one who is getting time in children's house, Barnahus, and the court will listen to the child's testimony even though the police is still pre-investigating a case. And the child gets treatment immediately after debriefing about sexual abuse. So, those people who are involved when we are interviewing children is the Child Protection Service, it's the judge, it's the prosecutor, the lawyer for the child, and the defendant lawyer and the police. They are all involved, sitting in a room and watching through TV screen the interview. And we, maybe I or Þorbjörg, we are both also forensic interviewers, so we are maybe interviewing the child, and the judge and all participants can ask us questions through earplug we have in our ear. So here you can see the old house of Barnahus. It's in a residential area. It's a child-friendly place, has no marks outside the house. It looks like just a normal villa, but we have actually, in October, the government bought a new house for us, so we have twice as big house as this one, but similar like that one. It's very important that the children, if we think about not to harm the child, is that the child comes into a child-friendly place where they feel secure. Because when you're going to interview a child, it's not only about the interview that you have to be a good interviewer. It's the whole thing around it. It's the house, it's the environment, it's when you open the door, how you say hello to the child, and the feeling inside. So you can say our basic functions are that we interview children from 3.5 up to 18. Of course, we serve children who are younger, but we can't interview younger children than 3.5 because they don't have the verbal possibility to speak. But they can have medical care, and they can also, we can help their parents and support them. So what we do is we do those joint forensic interviewing for the judges. We have especially Child Protection Service preliminary interview. If we suspect that a child has been abused sexually, if they show sexual behavior, but they haven't told about anything, if they show this behavior, or if we have a young offender under the age of 15, it's not reported to the police. And also some children, they don't want to, especially teenagers, some of them don't want to report it to the police, even though it's a sexual abuse or a rape. But we think it's very important that you can get treatment, even though you don't report it to the police. Because according to Icelandic law, you can report it your whole life, so it never, I don't know the English word, falls down, so you can report it whenever you want. So it's very important that they get treatment. And then we have this medical examination in our house. And we have a team from the University Hospital in Iceland who come and see the child in Barnahus. And then we have most of our work is, 80% of our work is victim therapy and family counseling and support. And of course, we also have instructions to other professionals. We teach teachers how to look for sexual behavior and what is a risk behavior. And also we talk regularly to the Child Protection Service to tell them what to do in those cases. So because we are so few in Iceland, we are just 330,000, it's enough for us to have one barnahús. So we think actually that's very good because we have all those information under the same roof. And we are 7 people working there. 6 specialists and 1 who is taking care of all incomings and referrals. So, now the model I showed you in the beginning, now you can see the new picture is how it has been last 16 years. A child gives a disclosure about sexual abuse, come to one place and tell about sexual abuse just once. All the professionals meet in children's house and they will get interviewed, they can get medical care and they will also have treatment. So after 15 years, because the numbers I will show you later, after 15 years, you can see this, our experience gives us that we have efficient and professional and child-friendly work procedure and case management. Re-victimization of the child victim is minimized. Appropriate therapeutic service is secured because all cases come to our house, so we can secure that all children get treatment if needed. Mutual professional trust among the different agencies. We feel that we have a very, very big support in the Icelandic society. All the ministers and they really want this work to function as good as possible. And we have assimilation of knowledge and experience. We have also in Iceland increased awareness of public and confidence in the authorities. Almost all children know about barnahús. If we say that we work in barnahús in Iceland, everyone knows what we do. And that increase also the knowledge and that awareness in the Icelandic society. And we have also increased rate of discovery because of that. And our model is role model for many children's houses in Europe. Sweden, the Queen of Sweden came and visited us in 2005, and now they have 30 barnahús in Sweden. Norway started 2007 and they have 7 now. Now 10, I think. Greenland started 2 years ago. Denmark this year. Finland, they have some kind of similar project like that one. And all over Europe is the awareness. We are now going to teach the Lithuanians. They have already bought a house. So this is growing. And also, this model, you can see it in the child-friendly justice report from the, the European Union, Lanzarote Convention. So after this 15 years, we have done 2,115 forensic interviews. We have had 1,502 children in treatment and medical examination, 332. We mostly serve young children, younger than 12, for medical care in barnahús, because we have also in Iceland, in the hospital, what we call rape center, where the teenagers mostly go. And that's 24/7. They have that rape, you can go to that rape center. So, but since 2000, and even though the average number is 201, since 2008 we have had around 240 up to 270 cases of forensic interviewing those since then. So here you can see the difference between the Child Protection Service interview and the interview for the judges. And you can say that 2/3 of our interviews are interviews for the Child Protection Service, because it's very important, even though we use the same methods and interview technique, it's very important that we have that possibility, because sometimes, like I will tell you a little bit later, children show sexual behavior. They are doing some drawings, sexual drawings. They haven't told about sexual abuse, but you have to ask them. Sometimes children think they have already told about or given a disclosure about sexual abuse, but we don't listen maybe, or we don't hear the hints they are giving us. So that's why we have all those Child Protection Service interviews. If you see the numbers increasing of hearing for the judges 2008, the reason is that we hired the age of sexual responsibility from 14 to 15 that year. So then we interviewed a lot of 14-year-old children. And 2013 we had also a lot of cases, because we had in the news in the beginning of January a case about a man who had abused 30 children or more over his period. He was quite old, and they were doing a TV program day after day after day. And what happens when you have a TV program or you have a program about sexual abuse, the children, they tell. Because sometimes they don't know if it's okay or not, if it's a part of their upbringing or something. They have to know. You have to teach them where the boundaries are. And that's what we are trying to do also in Iceland. We have programs in school. When they are 6 to 8, they have to learn about the boundaries. What is good touches and bad touches? And then again, around 10 to 12, they get programs in school where they know to see all those films and everything which you can see on the internet, which is inappropriate for children, and also for teenagers, the difference between sex and rape. So we try to inform our children as we can. And here the university in Iceland did the research, because in the Icelandic law, we just have that you should interview the child in a child-friendly place and with a specialist. So we have 8 courtrooms in Iceland. 7 of them were using our technique and our house in interviewing children. But the courtroom in Reykjavik, they had a special room for interviewing children with one-way mirror, and they thought it was enough. So the university in Iceland looked for the difference. So here you can see the dark blue is for barnahús and the other one is for the courthouse. So you see the difference when you interview or ask children and the parents if you are talking about good location. It's 86% of the people who thought that barnahús was a good location, attractive facilities. So you see that we have way ahead from the courthouse, even though the lawyers think that they have enough, good enough. Also here, when the child gives the testimony, people are, like you see, all the columns are better for barnahús. So that shows us that it's very important that if the child feels secure, if the child feels relaxed as possible, then it's more likely that they give a good disclosure. If you just think about yourself, if you are stressful, or you don't feel good in the location you're in, it's less likely that you remember what you're going to tell us about. Under stressful situations, it's much more difficult to remember and recall from your memory what happened. So it doesn't only count for the interviewer. You can have a good interviewer if the child is not feeling good in the location, if the child is not feeling good in the environment, if it's a stressful situation, then you can't do as good an interview as you could else. So if we look at the sexual behavior, you have to understand the age of the child, because it's different sexual behavior according to age. If the children have siblings, older siblings, and if they have access to computers and family form. So, children are curious about their own body. That's fact. And other people's body, and sometimes they act out on the curiosity with sexual play or sexual behavior. And the interest can vary a lot between children and is very individualized. So have that in mind. Sexual behavior, we have a brochure at our website with 3 columns. Columns with green color, where you say that the behavior is natural and healthy. The yellow column is about cases where you should concern about and maybe start to wonder and look further into. And red columns where you need to seek professional help. So if we look at natural behavior for preschool students, children under age of 6, everything is very fixed to the genital parts. They are so fixed and they like it. They want to know about different sexes, why you have a penis and not, and so. And that's curiosity, and it's natural. All those behaviors, playing doctor and inspecting private parts, looking at people at the toilet and so on, this is something which is normal. Erection is also normal because they have good feelings there in the private parts. Behavior of concern, you can see it on your slide, so I will not go detailed into each of this. So when you see behavior of concern, you see a little bit more of our feelings with that. They continue to touch private parts in public, even though the parents say no. Just do it in your room, or do it private. They continue this behavior, even though the parents have told them not to do. They keep asking their parents about some sex things. They use maybe some bad words. They don't watch nude people. They stare at them. So it's, a little bit more intense behavior. And what we say to preschool teachers, start watching when you see behavior like that. Write it maybe down so you see the continuity over the days. Behavior of a concern, when you need to seek professional help for those children, is when it's very intensive. They hurt themselves sometimes. They show angry feelings when they are talking about their genital parts. They are rubbing themselves. They are constantly sitting on something and rubbing their genital parts or private parts. And they ask people to take off their clothes, maybe force other children to take off their clothes and touch them. And putting something in the vagina or anus, and this more aggressive behavior for young children. And sometimes, I don't think I had it with me here, but sometimes if they use name of sexual activity, which is not, the childish word for that. You have to think about, according to their age, what knowledge they should have, those children. Natural behavior for school-age children from 6 to 9. After 9, they know a lot about sexual things. But natural behavior is when they ask questions about sex. How are the children born? How is... when they rub their genital parts when they're going to sleep, they do it silently when nobody sees. That's normal because they have a lot of feelings there in the private parts. They like dirty jokes and things like that. Look at nude people, but there's no aggressive behavior in that. Behavior of concern with the older children is that they keep getting caught watching other going to the bathroom, play with feces outside of the toilet bowl, they rub their genital parts in public, and so on. It's more aggressive behavior, but can still be normal. It doesn't mean that they are abused sexually. And finally, if you look at when you need to seek professional help, here you can see more aggressive behavior, like younger children. They're endlessly asking about sexual things. They want you to answer that. They force other children to play doctors, and then they take the clothes off. They are drawing intercourse or group sex with animals, things they shouldn't know according to their age. They want to masturbate all over the place, and they show maybe sexual behavior with animals, and they are really sexually fixed. All those cases are typical cases where we see children in this preliminary interview we are doing, because we see behavior, and you have to ask the children, where did they learn that behavior, and why are they behaving like that? So it's very important to have resources like that, and that we can do and use our forensic interviewing technique to try to get a disclosure if they are abused sexually. But in the preliminary interview, only 75% of the children give disclosure about sexual abuse, because most children in Iceland have access to the internet. We have a lot of pop-up films that comes when they are playing in the computer. They see pornographic films. They maybe have older siblings where they can see they have something in their computer. And after the age of 12, all children almost have a mobile phone with access to the internet. So that's a problem we are dealing with. So we did a research, and we saw that 90% of 12-year-old boys had seen pornographic films. Even though they didn't go to the internet and look for it themselves, it was some pop-up sites who came into when they were playing chess or something. So it's a lot they see. So research shows that children have been sexually abused show more sexual behavior than other children. And that doesn't mean that the sexual behavior is always an indicator of abuse. Like I told you, the internet is a big enemy. The strong connection between sexual behavior and the other problematic behavior, like children with ADHD, obsessive compulsive behavior, and Asperger. That's also what we see. If they know about sexual thing once and they have ADHD, they will be like fixed on sexual behavior. And many children show this behavior because they have seen those pornographic material of some sort. It's very important for you to think that when you have something in your mind, you have to do something with it. If you don't talk about it, children show it in the behavior or they show it in the drawings. Now I give the floor to Þorbjörg.
Okay. Hi, nice to be here with you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about sibling abuse. I know that we are touching on a lot of topics here today, me and Ólöf. It's probably because we wanted to give a lot of information in a short time. So sibling sexual abuse is rather common in Iceland. We get in our work we get a lot of cases of sibling abuse where usually we have an older sibling that shows another child, its younger sibling, some sexual behavior of some sort. And this is just one form of sexual abuse, sexually abusive behavior that teenagers show often to younger children, and that is about maybe 30% of the cases we get in children's house are teenagers with behavior problems that show other children's sexual behavior, and that can be extremely abusive at some times. So the definition of siblings, by siblings we are just talking about all children that are growing up in the same family. Like in Iceland, we have a lot of mixed families, all kinds of mixtures. So siblings are just the children growing up in the same family. They don't necessarily have to live under the same roof. Sometimes they live under the same roof at weekends only, or something like that. It can occur between siblings of same gender and not. We also have, even though older brother and younger sister is the most common form that we see, we get a lot of cases where there is older brother and younger brother, and we also have had not many, but still quite some cases where older sisters have been showing their younger siblings, abusing their younger siblings. So it's not only something. It is not only boys that are behaving in this way. And there is a difference between sibling abuse and just normal sibling involved in sexual play, because like Ólöf was talking about, this curiosity and things like that. We usually in children's house, we talk about abuse when the older child is around maybe 12 years old. We don't talk about abuse when it's maybe an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. Then it's in our minds more like a sexual play that even can though be very serious and need to be stopped and need to be looked into. But when the older child is over 12 years of age, then it's becoming more sexual abuse. The older sibling usually wins the trust of the younger sibling first, and that is very easy for the older sibling to do, because the younger sibling, in the eyes of the younger sibling, the older sibling is like a god. So it's easy for them to get that trust. It's really easy. They often use force, bribes, and threats. Teenagers, research show that that is much more common with teenage abuse, sexual abuse, to use especially threats and force than with older offenders. Because younger offenders, they don't have the tools like older offenders in the like grooming process. So it's often more force and more threats. And they offer the child a special attention or gift or something to keep the abuse secret. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a lot. I remember a girl who, her older brother made her do all kinds of serious things, because, and she said that she did it because he put music on her player for her instead, and he knew all the good music, and so that's how he kept it a secret. This can involve all kinds of sexual acts, as all other forms of sexual abuse. It varies a lot, and it does not necessarily involve sexual touching. It can also just be like the teenager forcing the younger sibling and his or her friend to do some sexual things and activity to each other, and maybe videotaping it and even broadcasting it through the internet so that he will get a pack of cigarettes for it. It can also be a forcing the younger child to watch pornographic things and repeatedly watching their children nude and stuff like that. The consequences of sexual abuse is, of course, always serious, and when the children are siblings, it involves a lot of other difficult problems. because they are so related and know each other so well, and there's so many positive feelings of love and respect and all sorts of feelings. The abused sibling can feel very pressured and trapped. It's a huge trap that it is into, and it often is happening for a long period of time. It starts maybe with a kind of sexual play when they are even younger, and then it evolves and gets more serious over time, and it can be a really serious abuse over a long period of time because the older child has such a good access to the younger child. And the younger child can be quite isolated from other family members because it just goes into itself and is the feelings of shame and all those things. These abused children that are abused by their siblings, they can feel very betrayed because someone they expected to love and care for them is hurting them also. And it's a lot of, like I said, mixed feelings. They are powerless because they feel they can't stop the abuser. The older sibling is bigger, stronger, and all those threats that I talked about earlier. So they also feel like no one would believe them if they would tell because it's their siblings. And they take the blame and are made to feel responsible, like in other forms of sexual abuse that is common. Studies of convicted teenagers show that sibling offenders, they commit more serious abuse over a longer period of time than other teenage offenders. When we have other teenage offenders that are not as related to the child, it's more often that it maybe happens once or twice or something like that. But when it's siblings, they are more readily available, and the abuse is also protected by family secrecy. So telling is very difficult for those children. We know and research show that disclosing about sexual abuse is much more difficult when the abuser is so much related to the child. It's also the same for grown-up offenders. When it's in the family, it's much more difficult for the child to disclose about the abuse. And these children, when it's their older sibling, they really don't understand that what is happening is abuse. They don't know always what is happening is abusive. They think it's just what siblings do. They also have, those younger children, they have the need for attention, and even they may get some physical pleasure through this. So sometimes it happens that this starts with the older child doing something to the younger child, but it may evolve to that the younger child is in the need for the pleasure. So it kind of sometimes they feel like they are asking for it because they have they are in need for the attention and the pleasure of it. So this can be very confusing for them, the younger children. They don't want their sibling to get in trouble, so they won't tell because of that. And they don't want to upset the family and the parents. And they are scared of their siblings because they can be a lot of maybe physical abuse also and threats. So they are in a huge dilemma, and that's why disclosing is so difficult. I'm going to switch to prevention now. Just 2 slides because we're just going to touch on this topic a little bit because prevention is so important. And we feel like in Iceland, after Children's House opened and has now the society, like Ólöf Ásta said, is very aware of it, and we also have a lot of prevention programs going on. So I think that we are on a very good way of getting the topic of sexual abuse out in the open. I think people in Iceland can speak very openly about it, and that is very good. But we can always do better. What we are doing, what we are maybe putting most effort into with young children is developing their own body safety skills, talking about that they have that their body belongs to them and they can say no. They have the right to say no if somebody touches them in their private parts, so about safe people and safe places, and we have a lot of things in our prevention program is about helping them that they are supposed to tell about everything, and that they are supposed to have secrets that are only good secrets, like what you're going to give somebody for a Christmas present or a birthday present, but secrets can never be something that hurt you or you make you feel bad, and those kinds of secrets are secrets that you are supposed to tell about. And we teach them about okay and not okay touches, and we put a lot of focus on all kinds of risk behaviors, so we can, all of those things that Ólöf was talking about before. So that is some things that you can do with prevention with younger children. With older children, we focus more on like education about healthy sexual relationship, and we have this film that is called Get a Yes. That is a very good film for teenagers about the boundaries between healthy and unhealthy sexual relationships, and about what is sexual abuse, what is rape, and education about pornography, the difference between porn and reality, which is in this society of the use of internet and with the massive use of pornography, those teenagers are in very difficult position to understand the difference between porn and reality. So we teach them about that. So that's very important. And also, when talking about prevention, it's very important also to focus on the parents, about teaching them how to talk about these things to their both younger children and teenagers, because that's very important. You have to start there also. I know this was I could speak about prevention for 30 minutes also. So I'm going to switch now to the treatment, because fortunately enough, we as a society have developed ways to help children that have been through sexual abuse. And in Iceland, we put a lot of effort trying to take the stigma away, that if you are sexually abused, your life is ruined and you have no future ahead of you, that you are a victim for life. So we are trying to erase that thoughts and talk about surviving sexual abuse, and talk about post-traumatic growth rather than being a victim for the rest of your life. So that is very important, and that is and for in the recent years we have been developing a lot of ways to help traumatized children that are working very well. And we see, and that is maybe why me and Ólöf Ásta have been working in Children's House since 2001, because it's not an easy place to work in. I think the main reason that we stay and that we don't burn out is that we see these children and we see that they can be helped and they can get better and they can get great lives, and they are just so strong, and they are just and you could never pick them out in a line that they have been abused rather than somebody else. So that's, I think, our vitamin. Definitely in work, that we can help those children to get better. Victim therapy in Children's House starts shortly after the forensic interview, and is for children who disclose sexual abuse. We base our treatment on individual needs, so it's very age appropriate. It's very different to treat a 4-year-old and a 16-year-old or 17-year-old. So we have to base the treatment program on individual needs. We can, as therapists, we can watch the video recording of the child's interview, and it's never the same specialist. Like if I do the forensic interview, Ólöf Ásta or some other of my colleagues take that child for a treatment, and vice versa. So we never treat the child that we do the forensic interview. It's very important because it's very unlike things that you are doing. Therapy is practiced in the child's hometown, so the child comes to Reykjavik, to Children's House for the forensic interview, to this child-friendly setting. But if they live far away from Reykjavik, we go to them and treat them in their home setting so they don't have to travel all the way to Reykjavik to get specialized treatment. We don't have so many therapists in Iceland that are specialized in trauma-focused treatment. So that is very, 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 very important. We focus on these, according to the World Health Organization, the mainstream treatment programs are like trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, and that is what we practice the most in Children's House. But we also practice cognitive processing therapy. It's a little bit more for the teenagers. And then we have 2 specialists in our house that have learned EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. And that is quite new in the field, and we don't understand it a lot, but it really works. So we see that it is really effective because it's other. You are assessing the trauma in a new way, and it seems like it's working very well. So that's what we practice. We also, with the youngest children, we focus on psychoeducation and Zen therapy. Sometimes it's more of a cognitive behavioral therapy than traumatized, because not all children are traumatized. With the youngest children, it's also a lot of behavior modification, and then we do some mindfulness, and always we add to our treatment a lot of self-esteem boosting aspects. We have to work with the self-esteem and self-respect of these children, because it is below in freezing temperature oftentimes. The therapist rule is to set the agenda and to be directive and active, and the therapy must be fun, even though it's difficult. We have to get the child's attention and to get them on board with us in the therapy. And we also need to put a lot of good focus on assessing the child, what is needed, and we have to assess if the child is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or depression or other, and we have to we use all kinds of measurements and clinical interviews and observations to assess and measure the child's problem before we start and when we are choosing what therapy is best. Psychoeducation is very important. It's always a part of all our treatment forms, and sometimes with the youngest children, with maybe children from the age of 6 up to maybe 8 or 9, when they are not so keen to cognitive behavioral therapy, we focus more on psychoeducation. And the trauma-focused therapy is probably the one that we use the most. And this book is like I don't know, a Bible or something. because it has so much information and it's so good to learn how to practice these kinds of therapy. And this is the therapy that is working very well. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't even take so much time. It's maybe only 12 to 20 sessions, and it's very effective, and it is quite time limited, and it's very structured. And the parents are a big part of the treatment. So it's assessment, psychoeducation, relaxation. I'm getting a little bit short of time, so and the focus is also on the trauma narrative, to get the child to work with their story in a way that they choose, either writing or doing some activities around it, or some play, or just talking. It just depends on how they would like to present their narrative. And we have conjoined parent-child sessions and all sorts of things. And CPT is and all these are evidence-based treatment, of course. We have a special protocol with that. This is also a very good book. It is a very good therapy with the teenagers, because it's more of a thought processing. We don't do this with the youngest children, because this focuses more on the cognitive part of the treatment, on trying to get rid of all these thoughts that are taking too much place in the brain. So it's also time limited, around 12 sessions, up to maybe at sometimes 8 to 10, and sometimes up to maybe 20 sessions. And then it's more about processing the trauma. And then EMDR, there is a standardized protocol for all ages of people. They have just recently, it was made first only for grown-ups, but they have recently started to see that this is working also. Research has shown that this is working also very well for children. And it is even fewer sessions, and like we practice it, it is we never only do this. We usually, the child is in the trauma-focused TFCPT program, and then they will take some EMDR sessions also. And its components are these, history and treatment planning, preparation, assessment, and then these things that are involved in the treatment. Desensitization, installation. I don't know these terms enough. So it's about reevaluating the trauma and reprocessing the trauma, and they use the finger. It's a very strange kind of therapy. It's very new to many of us, but it's very exciting, and it's beautiful how very well it seems to work, and that's what matters the most. We always must think of the child's best interest, and I decided not to look at you, so thank you very much. I blocked you away from the view. So thank you very much. It was very nice to be here with you today, and we will speak to you maybe more on the panel discussion later today if you have any questions. So thank you a lot for today.
Thank you. Don't go away. Please don't go away. You will have the gifts. Thank you very much of your honest and open overview of the system and all your knowledge. It was very interesting to listen it. I think maybe someone here in the audience was listened also very carefully and have just one question. We have a time for one question. You was on time, absolutely on time. You made well. You made well. So do we have one question in the audience? And I can give the microphone in the audience. If not, then I want to ask them one question. When you established your system and the centralized institution, what was the biggest lesson you learned during this? Because you was the first one, or one of the first in the Europe.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one. Let's say so.
Don't take that
don't
from
be
us.
shy.
Putting up a house like this takes a lot of effort and work, but it's very doable. So we had to maybe face probably changing all the laws, and those barriers are probably the most difficult. And to teach old dogs to sit, because when you are used to some other methods and you think that you're practicing the best that you can, and then something new comes around, and it is working, but you don't believe it maybe yet. You need to prove it first. So this may be the first 2-3 years when proving that this was, something that was working was probably the most barrier. But today it's like working very well, and I think we have gotten rid of most of the skeptic thoughts about the
So you had a skepticism somehow in the beginning.
Of course.
And you worked through it, and now you have the system that you like, really.
Yeah.
And it's working well. Thank you very much again, and see you later in the
Thank you.
in the panel.
Thank you.